All right, today we're going to dive into an absolutely incredible story from the Himalayan foothills. It's about a woman who became a legend, Nishanichi Vimla, the sharpshooter of the Himalayas. And this quote, wow, it just gets right to the heart of what we're talking about today. Think about it. In 1962, while a whole nation is dealing with defeat, one small remote village is about to see this amazing personal victory. It's a story that proves heroes, well, they show up in the most unlikely of places. So let's set the scene. We're in a tiny, isolated village, way up in the Himalayas, around 1962. Life here is tough, you know? It's all about physical strength, about endurance, and into this world, we meet our main character, a young woman named Vimla. You see, for Vimla, her whole life was pretty much defined by what she couldn't do. She'd been frail since she was a kid, and she was famously slow. A task that took other women an hour, it would take Vimla 2. In a community where your worth was all about how much firewood you could carry or how fast you could work the fields, Vimla was seen as a total failure. And this quote, it just nails the kind of ridicule she faced every single day. Now, Vimla did have this one secret skill, even if it seemed completely useless. She could knock down any mango from the highest branch with a perfectly aimed stone. But even that was turned against her. People saw it as proof she was lazy, not as a sign of some hidden talent. And you know, every great story has a rival, right? For Vimla, that was Chanda. Chanda was literally everything Vimla wasn't: strong, fast, and powerful, married into the village headman's family. Chanda was a leader, and Vimla was an outcast. The gap between them was huge, and it was a source of humiliation for Vimla every single day. Then came the moment that really sealed her fate. It all went down at the village gathering spot, a fig tree. They called it Timla. With Chanda leading the charge, the women actually held a vote, and they decided they weren't going to wait for the slow, always late Vimla when they went to collect firewood anymore. She was officially, publicly cast out. I mean, this was rock bottom. But then, something completely unexpected happens. The outside world comes crashing into their small village. The 1962 Sino-Indian War kicks off. And because their village is so close to the border, this distant conflict suddenly feels very, very real. The air is just thick with fear, patriotism, and a ton of uncertainty. Everything was about to change. So what does the government do? They start this initiative to bolster the border defenses. The army starts training civilians in these villages, and that included the women, to use .303 rifles. A military training camp gets set up right there, in their village, offering an opportunity nobody could have possibly imagined. And this is where the story takes another huge turn. The army trainers are here, they've got these heavy rifles, and Vimla gets pushed into a situation she feels completely, totally unequipped to handle. Now, Vimla had zero intention of joining this thing. I mean, why would she? But a kind neighbor gently pushed her, basically saying that if she didn't at least show up, she'd be completely cut off from everyone. So her reason for going wasn't patriotism, not at all. It was just this painful, simple desire to belong, to not be the total outsider. So her first day, it was a total disaster, exactly like everyone thought it would be. That .303 rifle was a monster, heavy, awkward. The second the trainer handed it to Vimla, she dropped it with this loud thud. And of course, the other women, led by Chanda, just burst out laughing. Another public humiliation. Okay, so this is it, the moment of truth. They set up a straw target at the edge of a field. The trainers tell the women to take aim and fire, and pretty much the whole village gathers around to watch the show. And the results? Well, let's just say they were not great. Between the rifle's heavy weights, its powerful kickback, and the deafening boom, it was just too much. Woman after woman stepped up, fired, and missed. And I mean, they missed wildly. Turns out, just being strong wasn't going to cut it. Then, of course, Chanda steps up. You know, the strongest one of them all. She shoots this smug, prideful look over at Vimla, lifts the rifle, takes aim, and fires her bullet straight into the sky. The recoil nearly knocks her over. Even the village champion failed. Big time. So, now it's Vimla's turn. And you can just imagine what everyone's thinking, right? The frail Vimla, the woman who couldn't even hold the rifle? No way. The expectation for her was less than zero. It was almost a joke. But as she lifted that heavy rifle, something just clicks. She isn't thinking about how weak she is or about the crowd laughing at her. She blocks it all out. and she taps into that one unique skill she has. She focuses with the exact same intense, pinpoint concentration she uses to aim her stones at those mangoes way up in the trees. She fires, crack, a perfect hit. The trainers think it must be a fluke, so they set the target up again. She fires again, another perfect hit. They have her fire 12 times in total. 12 shots fired, 12 perfect, dead center hits. The whole field just went silent, absolutely silent. And right there, in that moment, with the smell of gunpowder in the air, everything changed. The weak, clumsy outcast was gone. In her place stood a hero. A legend was born. I mean, the transformation was just immediate and total. They gave her a new name right then and there. Nishanichi Vimla, Vimla the Sharpshooter. Her husband, who was always so indifferent, was suddenly bursting with pride. She was no longer an outcast. She was the most respected person in the whole village. And that quiet, withdrawn woman was replaced by someone with a calm, deep confidence. She had finally found her place. You know, Vimala's story just completely flipped the script on what strength even meant in her community. Suddenly, it wasn't about how much wood you could carry. It was about focus, concentration, and a hidden talent that nobody had ever bothered to look for before. And that brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? On the grand scale of things, the 1962 war was a bitter loss for the country. But for one small village, and for one incredible woman, that conflict brought a victory that was more personal and profound than anyone could have imagined. It gave them a hero. And it really makes you wonder, right? How many hidden talents are out there, just like the mullahs, waiting for that one perfect moment to finally be seen?